Hi, everyone. We're back with the latest edition of our webinar series covering MIDC's compliance reporting. For this session, we're going to focus on what's new for FY24. I'll cover a few eGrams basics with a short tour of the site and include some reminders for project directors. Our grants director, Rebecca Mack, will cover the new standard being implemented, which is Standard 8, addressing attorney compensation and the financial reporting required this year. Our research director, Dr. Jonah Siegel, will pick up with reporting on our attorney lists, covering assignments and payments for attorneys each quarter, and the program reporting required for compliance during the program year. Then I'll be back to finish up with submitting the reports and making corrections if necessary, and how to contact us if you need help with reporting anytime. First, we always like to start with a reminder about how you can find our grant management system. The website is located at the bottom of the screen, and you know you're in the right place if you see the MIDC's logo up in the left-hand corner. You're going to log in with the credentials that you've been using for the past couple of years. If you don't have a login yet, please check our website for instructions on setting up your account, or you're welcome to contact us. We're happy to help with getting you set up. Once you're logged into the site, you're going to see the first new thing here. We now have a disclaimer here. Basically, this is our acceptable use policy we're required to have on our site. Take a minute to read it over, and then when you're ready to proceed, just click accept. I have a few notes here for project directors. Each year, you must assign the users who are with your funding unit who are going to be doing any sort of reporting or updating on the compliance plan to certain levels of access within our grant management system. So once you're logged in, this is for project directors. Once you're logged in, go ahead and hover over that drop-down menu that says project director and assign agency users. This is where you're going to be able to see all of the users who are associated with your compliance plan. These are people that you assigned when you created the compliance plan last spring. The way that you would access this is you're going to use the lookup menu here. Those are the three little dots. We call that our lookup menu, and click find. Then you will have a display of everyone who's associated with your funding unit who has access and credentials within eGrams. You're going to want to make sure that everyone who you want to have a role in terms of reporting is assigned here to some level of permission. So you see there are a few here that are blank. Use again the lookup codes there, and a dialog box will pop up with the types of access that we allow in our grant management system. The project director is going to be assigned primarily, this is the person who again submitted the compliance plan, and this will default to be the project director. You may want to have more than one project director. You might have COMEX in your system or the public defender in the MAC, maybe both people are serving as project director. That's fine. You can have up to 3, but the project director is the most common assignment that we have here. That person usually serves multiple roles. So that's the number 1 in the project code. The other code that is required is to have a financial officer. This should be somebody connected to the funding unit who has access to the reporting. Check our grant manual for additional requirements, but this is somebody who basically has a good sense of working with all of the financial reporting with the local funding unit. So that's the financial officer, and that is also one of the required roles that we have here in our grant management system. And the third and final role here is going to be authorized official. This is the person, it probably is the person who signed your contract as of October 1st. If you don't have a contract signed yet, you're not going to be able to proceed with reporting. So make sure that somebody was serving as the authorized official. Your contract has been signed in eGrams in order for you to proceed any further. These 3 roles are required, like I said, project director, financial officer, and authorized official. It may be that somebody who serves as project director or a financial officer also served as the authorized official for purposes of signing the grant contract, and you need to assign that person or reassign that person to a reporting credential, project director or financial officer. Authorized officials don't have access to submit reporting. They can review reporting, but are not able to submit. So for a number of reasons, whether it's staff overturn or people got reassigned for various administrative purposes within the grant year, you'll want to go in and make sure that those credentials are assigned properly. There is another category here called reports admin. This one is pretty common for people who are affiliated with the court system who have a need to enter data related to compliance planning, whether it's the quarterly program report most commonly. So you can assign somebody report admin permission so that they can enter data. Again, though, that person is not going to be able to submit reporting, much like the authorized official. The submission of reports is going to be with the project director or financial officer. A couple other reminders here in the reminder category is to review the compliance plan. This again is primarily for project directors, but also the financial officials. You're going to want to take a look at the FY24 plan that was submitted last April. Most people had their plans submitted by the end of April, and those plans were approved by the commission in June. In between that time, a lot of plans were adjusted through work with the local funding unit and our staff to make some corrections specifically around the cost analysis. And these are just going to be minor corrections, moving something from one category in the cost analysis to another. But it's pretty key for reporting. So you're going to want to know where those costs ended up. And so there's a couple ways that you can take a look at this here. Go to the grant application. And again, you're going to populate the program and the agency and the reporting year. And you can either start with this display where you got the little opportunity to tick a check mark here and do a PDF preview. This will bring up the entire compliance plan in a nice PDF format that you can save, print, review at your leisure or share with other people on your team. This is a pretty easy way to get a sense of all of the information that was approved by the commission in your FY24 compliance plan. The other way that you can access it is to click on this contract signed by grantee. This is the status that this contract is in right now. Click on that hyperlink and it will bring up the compliance plan for you. And what you'll do here is navigate along the left-hand side. And again, really probably nothing changed about the compliance of the program reporting pieces around the standards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, any of that. The cost analysis, though, tends to be where some things got adjusted post-submission by the funding unit through collaboration with probably either our regional manager team or people on our grants team, just to assign the cost categories correctly. So along the left side, again, navigate to the cost analysis. If you click on the little plus, it will expand the tree there. Navigate to the cost analysis detail, and then take a look. So a couple of common areas where we moved costs would be maybe something like somebody put in a couple $100 for partition or wall covering or something like that for some privacy, but they put it in contracts for construction on the theory that maybe some modification was being made to the space. That is, generally we understand the theory there, but technically we call that supplies. So it would have been moved from contracts for construction down to the supplies line item. Similarly, equipment is a pretty common one. People were putting things like phones, maybe iPads, or just a variety of different types of small pieces of equipment. We don't really call that equipment. The equipment has a value threshold of $5,000. And so if it was under $5,000, typically a lot of these items were just a couple of $100, right around that range. We also moved those all to supplies. So just to be very clear here, things were not deleted necessarily. They might have a different rate attached or something like that. Some modification was assigned there, but essentially the item might have been moved from one category to another. Most commonly, you're going to find those items in supplies. This is important because a lot of times people will say, oh, well, I bought my phones and a couple of tablets, but I don't see anything here. They want to enter it on the equipment line item when it comes time for reporting. So they go in and try to do a line item transfer or a budget adjustment to move money back to equipment. That's going to be rejected because it's not technically equipment the way that we have to report that out for state of Michigan spending. So again, take a look here and just see exactly how the final FY24 cost analysis was approved so that you can do your reporting on your spending accordingly. The last reminder here, just we get a couple of calls during the course of the year about, I'm not sure if I received my payment, my funding unit received my payment. Again, both the project director and the financial officer, at any time, you can go in and check the status of payments that were made pursuant to the grant contract terms. So you can, again, populate the top portion. You can go back to 2022-23 also, to see where your spending was. Whether the funding was distributed. Click on the find button and it will display here this little line which says the current year, the contract amount. Navigate over to the far right column, the plus sign, and it will expand and will show you throughout the course of the year when those payments were distributed through Sigma to your local funding unit. When you're ready to submit your compliance reporting, you're going to go to the main home screen again under reporting, and again, hover over that drop-down menu. Choose progress reports and populate again using the lookup menu all of the information for the CPA 24, the FY 24 compliance planning year. It's going to default on the status bar here, if you can read this, to pending. I always tick the all button just because I like to have a nice display of everything, what's already been submitted and what's still pending in my queue. You can do either. You're not going to have any pending reports until 30 days before the due date, just for your information. Again, that's why I like to tick over to all. I can go back through and review the reporting that was already submitted that way. When you click find, it will bring up the menu of reports that are available for you to submit. You can see that they're pending here. If the last letter at the end of the status bar is P, that means pending with you to submit. So we have 3 reports that are required every quarter: an attorney list, the financial status report, and the quarterly program report. As I mentioned, Jonah is going to go over the quarterly program report and the attorney list. I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca next, though, to talk through the financial status reporting and our new standard, Standard 8, covering attorney compensation.
Hi, everyone. Rebecca Mack, the Grants Director at the MIDC. And just looking to talk a little bit about some changes to reporting that are coming with this first year of Standard 8 FY24 reporting. In the area of attorney compensation, which is Standard 8, we have contract attorneys that are now reporting at the hourly level. And again, as Marla mentioned, that will coincide back with what you submitted and was approved by our commission related to your hourly rates for these contract attorneys. Standard 8 is part of the implementation related to our new grant year, fiscal year 24, and our systems are converting to hourly rates for contract attorneys. This is going to appear on the invoice, and this standard, the language from the standard, is on the screen emphasizing the tracking of all hours spent on a case as part of the new invoices that will be prepared and reviewed by the assigned counsel administrators or public defenders. To get to the contract on eGrams, first you're at the home screen, then you'll choose project director. You will choose application status. And then within application status, you get to your compliance plan and cost analysis review, and you're going to be finding this, and you want to view your contract. And in front of you is the executed contract that the last page will show all of the signatures by whether it's the funding unit, the MIDC representative, and MIDC's executive branch agency, Lara. Within the contract, there's new approved language by the MIDC's commission in June of this past year for our FY24 contract to emphasize the need for documentation revolving around Standard 8. So this language is embedded in the contract as indicated here in section 1.4 on pages 4 through 5, identifying that the documentation or the invoices for each of these individual payments to attorneys needs to be submitted to the MIDC in the way that it was approved in the cost analysis. So the financial documentation is going to be reflective of the hourly rate that you are paying for the different attorneys that work in your system, whether they're at a misdemeanor rate, felony rate, or multiple felony rates, and that the hours that they worked on cases at the increment that they're submitting the invoices, it's tracked and submitted for approval based on this new contract language that exists this contract year. So we're going to look quickly at how you attach documents to the FSR. This has been consistent with our few years into eGrams, but just a good refresher, because that's a key part of what the review is at the MIDC, that we need documentation related to all aspects of the cost analysis from payroll through supplies. So at the inquiry, the three dots, you're going to choose the all, as Marla mentioned earlier, to get all of the reports that are available to you and find them. And at this level, you're going to be choosing the pending report for the financial status report. So this should be familiar to you. This is a copy of the FSR form. There's been no change to the design of this form, but there is a new reporting requirement related to Standard 8 for your first report due at the end of January. In the area of contracts for attorneys, as I mentioned earlier, related to the contract change, the MIDC contract change, we will be requiring all invoices. At this level, you will be reporting your expenses for the current period. And then we move on to the attachment. We won't be attaching the invoices here, but it may make sense for you, for your own records, to attach what we had been receiving in the past, which is a list of attorneys and what the payments were within the quarter. When you click on this paperclip, it allows you to attach a record here related to a file that's in your system that, you know, maybe corresponds to a printout from your accounting system, or what you used to do in the past related to a list. So you would attach that document here, browse for it, attach it, and then hit OK. In the world of additional supporting documentation, just for your help for a record here, because this is not the area that we're going to be attaching the attorney invoices, the change related to attaching attorney invoices is actually going to be happening to the attorney list. And Jonah Siegel will be speaking about this after I've finished the FSR reporting. But this is an example of a printout from your accounting system that could be submitted here, that I see a lot of systems, whether they have this Munis software or BSNA software or other in-house systems, that do a printout of activity within the reporting period. A lot of times this captures the list of attorneys that have been paid in the system and the amount that they've been paid, the dates that they've been paid, that corresponds to the period for financial reporting. This may be something that works for you to help you. I know it'll definitely help the MIDC in tying out to, okay, contract for attorneys is this amount for the reporting period, and we see the total amount reported on this run of an accounting report in your system. And that would be helpful here for your organization as well as our organization of the reporting. But again, new for FY24, we're going to be requiring the invoices for all of the contract attorney bills that you're approving and paying within this period. But that change will occur at the attorney's list level. Just a few helpful tips related to submitting documentation and reasons why maybe we send some things back for corrections, and also some, you know, just like helpful things to think about when you look at your cost analysis. Marla had mentioned earlier, you know, it's probably worth it to review your cost analysis to make sure you understand at the detail level that something's reported in supplies and not in equipment. Again, that's probably one of the most common mistakes that You seem to think that the things like computers and phones and things like that truly are equipment, but we're at a capital level for reporting for equipment at the state, and so that threshold is $5,000. So if we had something there that was less than that, as Marla mentioned earlier, we've moved that into supplies to properly put that in a category that fits. If you have a quote for equipment or small construction projects or things like that, that is not support for the payment. A quote is just that. So when you go to submit the expenditure that occurred, you need to have the actual invoice that you paid against, where, I would assume that would be, in the neighborhood of the quote, but different. So the invoice is proper here for supporting documentation for something that you initially had a quote for, but actually paid the bill against the invoice. Indirect costs, just to mention here, if you have indirect costs that have been approved by part of your compliance plan and cost analysis, we have two methods. We have an actual method that there's a cost allocation plan that you supported your request, and there's a separate line for that cost allocation report. The report is attached in the cost analysis, and then whenever you transfer expenditures out of the 260 fund at the local level to satisfy those charges for the cost allocation plan, there's just some documentation that you'd need to attach to identify that that's been vouchered out. If you're in the other category related to indirect costs, that you're allowed to claim up to 10% for budgeted expenses for personnel and fringe, that 10% factor is at the reporting level at the FSR at each quarter, earned based on 10% of actual personnel and fringe expenses. The system allows you to report that only up to that 10% of actual personnel expenses for that quarter, but you need to report that. The system doesn't generate it itself, so you have to go in and enter a number there to claim those expenses each quarter. If you miss this, we can always send the report back in corrections for you to adjust it and to claim the indirect expenses that are costs that were approved in your budget. But it again is at the cap of what your actual personnel expenses are for the period you're reporting, and you need to enter it and the system will validate for it. Again, if you need a line item transfer, you get to this quarter and you find out that your budget that you submitted, that it was approved in April, something has changed related to pricing for equipment or software or something that you're going above what was initially approved, and you need to ask for a line item transfer to increase supplies. We'll say, for instance, take a look at this at the pending level when you're working. It's a work in progress of your FSR, and then either go into the system and ask for a line item transfer, or if you need assistance, you can always work with your regional manager who will help you walk through that process. It's a two-pronged process at the MIDC, that it is sent through egrams to your regional first for an explanation of why you need the line item transfer. Upon approval, it's sent back to you, and the cost analysis in the application is then available for you to show where you're going to shift funds from and to. Then it goes back to the regional manager, and then it goes to me as a grants director for final approval. At different stages, you will receive an email from egrams letting you know where we are in the process.
Thanks, Rebecca. We're going to move now to the attorney list and quarterly program reporting with our research director, Jonah Siegel.
In today's webinar, I will be talking about how to submit your quarterly reports and also changes in FY24 quarterly reporting. This fiscal year, you will notice changes in both the program report and the attorney list, and I will cover both of those today. First, I will summarize changes to the program report. We have new questions on the initial interview And in FY24, misdemeanor and felony district court cases and district court assignments will now be reported separately. I will walk through each of those in detail. First, some quick guidance on how to open the program report. You'll go to Reporting and eGrams, then Progress Reports, select the year, and then hit Find. You will then see several options pop up, and you can select the report you'd like to work on. You can see the red arrow here pointing to the program report. Once you open the report, you will see at least 4 tabs. The first tab is called Reporting Information. The second tab is the System tab. And then you will then see 1 tab for each court in your system, which might only be 1 or might be more than 1. And then lastly, a Final Questions tab. On the Reporting tab, most of your information should auto-populate. Make sure to check the box next to every court. This is what allows you to submit data for that court. So here you can see Barry County has checked off the 5th Circuit Court and the 56th District Court. There is one major change on the System tab, which is that we've added 2 detailed questions about the initial interview. In FY23, systems were asked to answer yes or no to whether they had a process in place for monitoring Standard 2 initial interview compliance. In FY24, systems will now be asked to report the number of in-custody initial interviews conducted or reported by counsel during the quarter and the number of those interviews that were conducted within 3 business days. There are details on how to track these data points provided in the compliance reporting instructions. After the System tab, again, you will see 1 or more court tabs. Each tab will have a section of questions for circuit courts and district courts, but you'll only be able to answer the questions for the correct court type on that tab. The other questions will be grayed out. So at the top, you'll first see the circuit court questions. There are no changes on the circuit court tab this year. So if you are only reporting for a circuit court, you will have no changes on your court tab. This is what the district court tab looks like. There are several changes on the district court tab this year. The first change on the district court tab relates to new cases. In FY23, systems reported the total number of new adult criminal cases filed in the district court. In FY24, that question will be split into 2, misdemeanors and felonies. So first, systems will report the total number of new adult misdemeanor cases, and then separately, the total number of new adult felony cases, both filed in this reporting period. So there's no new data collection, but you might have to run 2 reports instead of 1, depending on what your process looks like. In many systems, the courts are still providing this information. In other systems, the public defender office or managed assigned counsel administrator has direct access to this information themselves. The second change in the district court tab applies to questions on assignments. In FY23, systems were required to report the total number of district court cases handled by assigned counsel post-arraignment. In FY24, systems will now be required to report the total number of new misdemeanor assignments and the total number of new felony assignments on separate lines. So same as the new cases. Again, there's no new data collection, but you might have to run 2 reports instead of 1, depending on the current process. For the most part, systems are no longer relying on courts for this information, I think, almost entirely. Now we will move to the attorney list. There has been a significant expansion of the attorney list in FY24. Here are the changes. First, there's a question about Standard 7 qualification tier, new assignments broken down by case type, and payments broken down by assignment, docket coverage, and expenses, and then hours worked on each type of assignment and docket coverage. That sounds confusing, but we're going to walk through that in detail now. So first, a quick reminder on how to open the attorney list. You will go through the same steps as when you opened the program report, reporting, progress reports, select your year, hit find, and then you'll see attorney list pop up. Here's the format of the new attorney list, and we're going to walk through most of these columns in detail now. So in FY24, the attorney list includes a drop-down menu for each attorney, identifying their level of standard 7 qualification for each attorney. So that would be misdemeanor, low severity felony, high severity felony, or life offense. There will be an option in FY24 to report unknown since standard 7 has not been implemented yet. The question will aid both systems and the MIDC in preparation for standard 7 compliance planning and implementation. But again, there's no penalty for reporting unknown for one or all of your attorneys during FY24. Next, new assignments. So in FY23, systems reported the total number of new assignments given to each attorney in the reporting period on the attorney list. In FY24, systems are going to be required to break those out. So new assignments by misdemeanor, felony, and life offense assignments given to an attorney in the reporting period. Next, payments. In FY23, systems reported total payment to an attorney in the reporting period. In FY24, systems will be required to delineate payment to an attorney in the reporting period in 3 categories: payments for assigned cases, payments for docket coverage, and payments for expenses, reimbursements, or travel. So you can see them here in the orange. First, total paid on assignments, then total paid on docket coverage, and total reimbursements paid. Please note that public defender offices are not required to enter payment information for salaried defenders because it is included sufficiently on the financial status report. And finally, hours worked. So systems will be required to report the number of hours each attorney worked on each case type: misdemeanors, felonies, life offenses during the reporting period, or reported to the system during that period. Systems will also be required to report the number of hours actually worked on a docket. Please note again that public defender offices are not required to submit an hourly breakdown for salaried defenders on the attorney list. And finally, in the last 2 columns, you'll see a space to upload documentation and then something about current status. So first, you will be able to upload documentation of attorney payments in this second to last column where you see the blue arrow. Systems do not need to upload invoices for salaried attorneys on their attorney list. Invoices should be included for all non-salaried attorneys. And then second, you'll be able to identify whether each attorney is actively accepting assignments. This was also there in FY23. And this should be completed for all attorneys in your system. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to reach out. Please note that all of this information is covered in more detail in the compliance reporting instructions. So please refer there with any questions. If you are still confused, please feel free to reach out to myself or Danielle Weinberg, our research analyst. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jonah. Once you've completed working on your reports, it's time to submit them. You'll navigate back to the original screen around reporting, and you will tick the box in the submit column to indicate you're ready to submit the report with the information that you've entered. Tick the box and then click OK, and that will bring up a message indicating to you that it is moving on to the next level for submission. Just a reminder, you can go back at any time and check the status of any of the reports that you've submitted. Click on the status bar down to all, or you can also check to see if any of them were pending correction requests. If you need to make corrections to any of your reporting, you will find that information on your home screen when you log into eGrams under your notification. You will see a particular report that was associated with a request for corrections. Here, in this example, it's an attorney list. The way that you'll go back to make those corrections is under the reporting tab and navigate again back to the report menu that's been displayed on prior screens so that you can just make the corrections there. What corrections do you need to make? We'll go ahead and check once you open that screen over to review comments. It looks like a little post-it note. It's going to have the information there displayed from one of the MIDC staff members. Make your corrections and then resubmit pursuant to the instructions that we've provided already. We're here to help. If you need us, feel free to contact us anytime. We can assist with egrams, with technical assistance. Deborah in particular is a great resource when it comes to the format for submitting the attorney list and also assisting with CE broker. That's something that a lot of funding units included in their compliance plan for FY24. This is an option for reporting CLE throughout the course of the year. Deborah is a great resource, our training analyst. She can help you with that anytime. Also, over to the left in the gray at the bottom there, I put the link to locate any of our staff members. We have our regional manager team, our entire grants team under the direction of Rebecca Mack, and then our research team. Jonah's already included contact information for himself or for our research analyst, Neil Weinberg. Really, feel free to reach out anytime. Thanks everybody for taking a few minutes today to learn about what's new in FY24 reporting. We look forward to hearing from you soon.